I'm about to talk in front of all these fine folks back here. If y'all want to wave or clap or like make me feel important, that's right. I'm important. They clapped. Sweet. How's everyone doing today? Good. Do we know what we're talking about today? Because I have no idea. All right. That was my attempt at humor. I'm sorry. I'll try that some more later. Let's get my mouse over here. All right. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is George Edmondson. I live here in Tuscaloosa. Are we good to go? Yeah. Okay, sweet, awesome. I live here in Tuscaloosa. I have 4 kids. They are, yes I do. I have a boy, girl. I don't know how in the world we managed to make that work, but it did. So, yeah, it was, I don't know. My wife is talented, I guess. So, but I just want to talk a little bit about how I got started in creating video, and then we'll just dive right in. So I guess I started making video when I was like 13 years old. I made skateboarding videos with my friends. Tons of fun. Nothing I really ever thought I would turn into a career. It was just something that I was really passionate about. I was interested in, so I filmed them with the big VHS camcorders, you know. And then to edit the videos, we took 2 VCRs, stack them on top of each other. Does anyone remember this? You press play and then record, but you have to like time it just right, because if you don't time it right, then it's off really bad. So what we did though, we would time that, but then I also had like a tape player, and we'd plug in to the audio input on the VCR, and that's how we got music on our videos. And everyone was like, "How did you do that?" And that was how. It was a big deal back then for a 13-year-old. So let's, this is probably something that you guys have been talking about a lot, but we're gonna talk about why video is important on social media and just online in general. Probably the first thing I'm gonna bring up is, who's ever heard of YouTube? Most of you, probably. Do you know what company owns YouTube? Google owns YouTube, right? And a majority of people go to Google for their searches, right? So it was Bing. Okay. Well, I can't help you there because I know nothing about Bing, but Google owns YouTube, and so whenever you have video hosted on YouTube, a lot of times if someone's doing a Google search, I mean, Google's gonna want those YouTube videos up there. It's gonna help boost SEO, utilizing the keywords on YouTube. So having video content just as much as you can on YouTube or just online in general is always a positive thing for your SEO. So let's talk about this a little bit. Since the digital age has allowed consumers to shop from the comfort of their home, shoppers have lost the ability to actually feel and play with and see products in person. When businesses create detailed demo videos that explain their products or services, customers don't feel as if they've lost that in-store experience when shopping online. Videos are fun for you and your customers. They get to see their product come to life on screen. They get to see and hear something that represents them and their company. And meanwhile, you, the creator, you get to create something, so it's a win-win. Since social media has kind of redefined marketing, videos have become an integral part of any successful marketing mix. So the first thing I want to do when we're talking about creating video, who here owns a smartphone? Who here owns an iPhone? Who here is Android? Okay, but it's still a smartphone, right? So these tips that I give you guys, it's going to work across the board, whether it's Android, iPhone, whatever. If it's a smartphone, it'll work. Who here creates video content for your company or business? Okay, you do, you don't, sometimes. Who here feels like if they had the knowledge and the tools to do that they would create more content? Okay, why would you create more content? I'm gonna ask a lot of questions, so just get ready. I need some engagement. So why would you create more content if you felt like you had the tool to do it?
Our social media hits and our attention on social media is the difference between a video post and general posts are
through the roof, right? Something else that you probably all know about social media is analytics, right? You can gauge the traffic on a video post a lot more than you can on a photo or just a regular post. Am I right in saying that? You can see kind of who's seen it, how many views you get. So video is a great way for you to actually track and see, where is this content going? Are people responding to it? So if you feel like you'll make more content, then hopefully this will help you. So we're just gonna dive right in. The first thing I'm gonna talk about when utilizing a smartphone or any camera is not having shaky footage. So who's watched a video and it's just, it'll make you seasick, right? So we're gonna talk about stabilization. I've got a little thing, let's see, let me get it real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna show you all this clip in a second. So let's talk about that just a little bit. All right, so this clip right here was like $20, I think, at Best Buy. Not a huge investment. I'm sure if you go to Amazon or something like that, you can find them a lot better. But what this does, obviously you can see what it does. You clip your phone in there and you can sit it down. So that's gonna give you that really clean, smooth, just footage that is still and stable. Something else I want to show you, if you don't have that, look, find something and just prop it up. Because I promise you it's gonna look a lot more professional and you're gonna be a lot happier with the quality of content that you're creating as opposed to, shaking around and stuff like that. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is exposure. Who knows what exposure is? Who's ever heard that term? So in terms of video, what does exposure mean?
How much light you've got going on,
right?
Frame and everything.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's basically what it is. So if you are overexposed, then that means things are much too bright, much too bright in the frame. If you're underexposed, things are much too dark. The cool thing about an iPhone and most other smartphones is there's actually a tool built right into the camera setting where you can adjust that exposure and make sure that you're not being blown out, you're not having, super bright spots. If someone doesn't have any hair and there's a big white spot from the it happens, you can bring that exposure down a little bit and they don't look like they have a, glowing halo on top of their head. So let's talk about that. Hopefully the audio isn't too terribly loud. Let's see. Alrighty, so we're out here at Frutta today, and we're going to be showing you guys how to utilize your smartphone to make better quality content video. One of the very first things that I want to talk about when using a phone is using this little section right here, and it says, if I can get it in focus, is using this section right here, and it talks about AE/AF lock. So what that's going to do is lock your exposure and your focus on your subject. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is just tap on your subject and then just hold it down until it locks in. So now that immediately is going to make your content look a whole lot cleaner, a whole lot smoother. You're not going to get a bunch of exposure adjustments and stuff like that. So now let's actually film something. And let's not be backlit, because I'm going to talk about that too. All right, sweet. There's going to be a lot of that because it's so much easier for me to put something on video than stand up here and talk. So something else that you may have noticed whenever you do that exposure lock, hopefully all of you can see, this is something that I forgot to hit on there. You can, won't you bring your phones out? Because I want some hands-on. Bring it to the video. So if you kind of pan around the room and you look around, you'll notice that what I was talking about, exposure adjustments, your camera, as you move and as things come into frame and come out of frame, you'll notice that it gets darker and brighter, and that's a big sign of an amateur video. And what we're wanting to do is create as professional quality videos as we can. So using that exposure lock is great. And like I said, all you do is you tap it, you'll see that little box, just hold it down. And then you see that. Something that comes up to the side is a little sun. It should come up on your phone. And if you drag that sun up and down, that'll bring your exposure up and down. So you can really get in there and do some fine detail. And so that should help you tremendously if you do the exposure lock and you're like, wow, it's still way too dark or it's way too bright. And again, these are built in. You don't have to download any third-party apps. There are third-party apps that are fantastic for video use on your phone. But if you're just working with what you got, that's a great way to do it. And you're not going to have those exposure adjustments.
You're going to talk about those third-party apps?
I will bring up the third-party apps, yes. Absolutely. And so we can talk about them now if we want, because I have no I'm not prepared for this at all. I'm just kind of winging it. So there are third-party apps. There's some called Filmic Pro, if you want to write that down. It's $15, I believe. It literally gives you every option that any professional grade sort of DSLR camera would give you. So you see my buddy Jacob back here. He works for me, and he's filming. A lot of the options that those like DSLRs and Cinemaline cameras give you, you can get on your phone with Filmic Pro. But you do have to have that knowledge and understanding of focus, exposure, white balance, all those, a little bit more detailed stuff. We're going to open up for questions at the end, and if we want to talk about like some more detailed stuff, we absolutely can. Filmic Pro is great. There's another one called, I think it's just called Pro Movie, and it's even cheaper, and honestly, I like it better than Filmic Pro. It's just a little bit more responsive. But those are really good ones. All right, so now that we have a few basic kind of shooting techniques down, we're going to talk about storytelling, I think, let me look at this next clip. Yeah, we are. So we're going to talk about storytelling. So what types of videos, some of you guys raised your hands, what types of videos do some of you guys create when you are creating content online? Who wants to share with me? What kind of videos do you make?
We share what's going on at events.
Okay, event videos. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, ours is mostly events too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do programs, our technical programs in particular, different things that our students are doing.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So some of these techniques, most of them should, especially with events, should really help you guys. What we're going to talk about right here is something called an establishing shot. What I'm doing, by the way, with all of these is we're kind of starting at the beginning and showing you the process of creating a video, and then at the end you'll see the final video that I created this morning with the smartphone. So you'll get to kind of see the process. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're trying to tell any sort of a story is open with something called an establishing shot. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It establishes where you are. This lets the viewer kind of understand where they are in the city or in the scene. For instance, we're out here at Frutta Bowls in downtown Tuscaloosa. So we're going to grab a few quick shots of downtown Tuscaloosa and then a few outside shots of Frutta Bowls, and then we move into the store. But again, open with an establishing shot that lets the viewer know where they are. All right, does that make sense? Does that make sense? So, a lot of times I'll see a video where someone they start out in a room, and unless you explain that in your post or in your video, you're just in a room to whoever's watching. They don't really understand where they are. Establishing shots are in every type of video out there as far as like cinema and TV shows. One show that I don't know why I always use it, but I do, is Friends. You've all seen that show. That's a pretty popular show. So what visually comes to mind whenever you think about that show? It's an outside shot. It's a coffee shop. Central Perk. So next time you watch the show or any show, you're going to start noticing this. In every transition, there's an establisher. Even if it's just from the ground and it's looking up at a apartment building, Now you know where they are, right? They're in the apartment. If it's outside and it shows Central Perk sign, now you know where they are. So that's a great way to let your viewers understand and know where the event is happening, where it's taking place. If you're shooting something at the stadium, quick shot outside of the stadium, and then it moves in. I mean, most people in Tuscaloosa are gonna know what it is anyway, but still, you know, that's a great way to do it. What's my next video I have? I think it's the exposure. Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of let this roll. So we talked about establishing shots. The next thing that typically I do after I get the establishers is if I'm gonna be filming any sort of interviews or anything like that, try to go ahead and get my interviews done as soon as possible. The reason why, and like I said, I'm gonna let this, no, I'm not gonna let this play yet, I lied. The reason why is because I need to know what content, what information we're trying to get across to the viewer first, so that later we'll talk about B-roll. You shoot your B-roll footage, and what that is the supporting elements to what is said. So if someone is talking about, you know, Evian water, well, I didn't know they were gonna talk about Evian water until the interview. So now I know I need a shot of a bottle of Evian to support what they just said. When you're doing an interview, it's very important to utilize light. How does this shot look to you guys? Pretty bad. This is something that I have seen too much of when people are in a rush, they're not thinking about it, they're not thinking about the basics. And they go and they film an interview and it's backlit. And a lot of times I think what they may be thinking is, oh, it's pretty outside, it's nice, but utilize natural light. I don't expect you guys to be carting around lights how Jacob and I do on shoots where we're setting everything up and getting it nice and lit. Utilize natural light. Find a window, find a lamp, find anything that's gonna put a sparkle in their eye and get them lit either evenly, or if you're going for something a little more dramatic, from a side light. So you should see in just a second the difference from when we turned around. So here we turned around and we're utilizing that natural light here. This is recording. We're gonna talk about a lot today, but we're gonna talk about audio too. A great way to sync your audio, we're gonna talk about this a little bit later, is doing that. I'll explain why in just a minute. All right, Josh, you can hold it up a little bit more, down just a bit, there you go. All right, just tell me, like, where are we, who is Frutta Bowls, that kind of thing.
Awesome. We're hanging out a little bit at Frutta Bowls, our local store here in Tuscaloosa, and we're just gonna talk and go over some content and how to bring people in here with content and how to bring content out to them just by using your phone.
Do you use your phone a lot for like social media and just posts and stuff like that about Frutta Bowls?
Yeah, I would say between live videos, stories, images, and then even just getting creative with different quotes and things like that, it's all on the phone because it's so easily accessible. The phone has such a good quality to transfer out to, you know, to the web daily, multiple times daily, I would say.
Sweet. How much would you give credit of the success of Frutta Bowls to just social media in general?
Man, a lot of credit goes to social media. You know, we've spent some money on some boosts and some advertising, but at the end of the day, we're trying to engage with our community, and we do that via videos, you know, down to earth videos, just telling them what we're about, what we're doing, charity events we have going on. We try and do it as professional as possible, but at the end of the day, it's still on our phone, and it's still very easily accessible if you know those rules and guidelines. Huge success. I think that if we were off our phones, it would make a big difference because, you know, the truth of the matter is everyone's on their phone. That's where they're finding their content. It's easy for them to get on the phone, just like it's as easy for me to get on the phone and create that content.
Sweet. Okay, so that was from the iPhone. And I personally feel like that is professional quality enough for me to use. Frutta Bowls is one of my clients, and he was nice enough to let me just come in this morning and shoot some stuff. But I feel like that content would pass even for me as someone who uses bigger, cinema grade cameras, I would feel comfortable putting that out and put my name on it and say Seed Creative made that video. That's how good smartphones are when you utilize those tools. Earlier when I was exposure locking, when I talked about how you've got that little slider that you can bring down, this is something that I didn't film. I wish I would have now, but even when I did that, his cheeks were still a little bit blown out. They were a little bit bright, so I just brought that exposure down with that little slider, and that's what gave that nice detail. His face is nice and bright, but it's not just a big white spot. So keep that in mind.
Are you satisfied with, I thought it sounded great, but are you satisfied with that sound quality as well, or do you recommend getting one of the inexpensive lavaliers that you can hook into the phone?
For a social media post, I think that audio would pass. The next thing we're going to talk about is audio. So it's funny that you brought that up. What's up?
I would just I would say that you speaking and asking the questions aren't going to be in there. So if that part kind of sounded bad, but that's not in the video.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about that too. So I purposefully left my interview questions in there because, like I said, it's a process. It's a stacking process. So we're going to talk about B-roll and how B-roll can cover up those spots where I was asking questions. We'll get into that in a minute. For a social media post, I thought the audio was fine. My goal here today is to talk about keeping things as low budget as possible. However, the microphone that I'm wearing now that goes to that camera is a $750 microphone. It sounds amazing. It sounds way better than that. So when I go out and I create, content, that's obviously what we use. But what he was using, it's just a little recorder. You can get them. I got it from Radio Shack. I don't think they're a thing anymore, but it was like $30. But the next thing I'm going to talk about is actually using iPhone to capture audio when you're in distances. So why don't we watch that video? I think I'm going to give you a really quick and simple fix to get good audio for a shot like this. As a matter of fact, that fix is probably in your pocket or you're watching this video on it right now. All of the audio is coming off of this iPhone that was in my pocket the whole time. Now I'm going to show you what it sounds like with the onboard microphone now. You probably can't hear me very well. All you have to do is sync your audio from your iPhone and the video in post later. I do a quick clap at the beginning of the video. Audio take 2, just like that one. And then I simply sync it up later, send myself an email from the phone. Boom, you've got good audio. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those other social media sites. We'll see you later. All right, that was something that I created, I think last year. I'd put out little quick tip videos just for folks about stuff like this. And if I sounded out of breath during that, I was, because I just had run from that camera all the way back. But yeah, so that was an iPhone in my pocket, and I used the Voice Memo app. It's free, comes on the iPhone. It's a great way to get better quality audio as opposed to being on board from the phone or from the camera. And so that's a great tool to use. The other thing, and I'm pretty sure I don't have it with me, it's called a Zoom recorder. That's what we used with Josh. It's got 2 little microphones that kind of cross like that. If you want to look up Zoom, I think it was a Zoom H1 is what we used. But it's really easy to use. We're going to talk about editing, I think, next. And that is taking that audio that you captured from a different device and putting them together. So let's make sure that's where I'm at. I think it is. No, it isn't. This is B-roll. So we'll talk about that anyway, though. So who here uses Mac, like Mac computers? Who here has ever opened the program iMovie? So you all have a good understanding. Who uses a little bit more advanced editor like Final Cut or Premiere? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's all. So with iMovie, it's free. I think Windows. Yeah. So iMovie is free. Windows Movie Maker is free. There's actually even an iMovie app for your phone that you can use. I've done it plenty of times. And you can take that audio and sync it up. So way earlier when I talked about snapping, do you remember that part? Earlier I said I'm going to tell you why. This is why. So when I snap or when I clap, that creates something called an audio spike that when you're editing in iMovie, you can actually see it visually when you bring your audio in, and it's just a straight line vertically up and down. That's going to create a spike in your audio in your video from your phone, but also just the audio that you got with your voice memo or with the Zoom. And what you do is you line those spikes up together and then turn the audio down on your video, and you've got that crystal clear audio. So, and that's just a really quick, fast way of doing it. You don't have to worry about, a lot of people will just let the editor like do it for them. Sometimes it doesn't work. Like I like to do things just manually sometimes. So I just clap, snap. You've seen the clapper boards, the beginning of movies, smacking. That's what that's for. Whenever it smacks. Yeah, so it's like take 180 million, smack! Now the audio and the video can sync up later in post. Any questions on audio yet? No? Okay, sweet. So the final bit, aside from editing, when I'm shooting a video, I've already gotten my interview, I've got my establisher shots. Now it's time to capture something called B-roll. You've heard B-roll before? Like I talked about earlier, B-roll is just footage that supports whatever is being said. B-roll is typically more important or the most important thing that you can gather, because sometimes you might not have an interview. And so you just have to visually tell that story. You don't get someone talking about, we're out here today at Frutta Bowls and we're making fruit bowls and that's what we do. You just have to, like, who is this company and what do they do? So B-roll is a really powerful way to do that. And so this is all shot on the iPhone in this little clip. It's in my my little tripod I used. I used my focus and my exposure to make sure that it wasn't, flickering or anything like that. And we'll just watch a little bit of this. So this is it. B-roll's super boring, but it's really powerful. Just shots. I'm gonna let y'all watch that for a second.
Why do they call it B-roll? Any idea?
Probably, hey, this is a cool shot. There's probably a reason, but I'm not gonna pretend like I know what it is. I'm going to assume that your A-roll is interview and like the meat, and then the B-roll is supporting it, secondary. So I just made that up. I'm sure someone online will correct me. Appreciate it. All right. This is something called a rack focus, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's really cool. If you take your phone or any camera, you set it close to something, and you do your little, where you tap on it and it gets focus. It's going to show whatever's in the foreground. The background's going to have that nice blur back there. And then what I did, as soon as he brought his hand in to start drizzling some stuff on the fruit bowl thing, I tapped on the Frutta Bowl and it focuses on it. That's called a rack focus. And it's something that you can do with a phone, and it looks really, it's really pretty. See, there you go. So it just does that quick little focus in, and you'll see that in the video that I'm going to show you in just a second in the final video. Who's hungry? Who wants some fruit? Who's ever had a Frutta Bowl? Oh man, you need to, they are a client of mine, so I'm going to say this, but fantastic. It'll fill you up. It's a full meal. All right, sweet. So that should be it. Let's pause it. So this is, I've already talked about this. So this is the editing process. It's super boring. I'm plugging my phone in. Not really a lot to see, but just bringing your footage in to the editor, whether it's iMovie or whatever. If you have iMovie open, you plug your phone in, it should automatically bring up a menu that lets you select the clips that you want to use in your project. That's me getting a Frutta Bowl. And I did eat it while I sat there and edited this morning. Then the final thing I'm going to show you, it's like a minute long, is the final video that we created. Josh didn't exactly do what I thought he was going to do. He talked more about creating video and stuff with your phone. I thought he was going to talk about Frutta bowls, but whatever. We're just going to roll with it. So this is utilizing all of that knowledge of setting him up where he's got some light on his face in front of the window, using the autofocus lock, shooting B-roll, using establishing shots, and then using the audio for clean audio.
We're hanging out a little bit at Frutta Bowls, our local store here in Tuscaloosa, and we're just going to talk and go over some content and how to bring people in here with content and how to bring content out to them just by using your phone. I would say between live videos, stories, images, and then even just getting creative with different quotes and things like that, it's all on the phone because it's so easily accessible. The phone has such a good quality to transfer out to, to the web daily, multiple times daily, I would say. Man, a lot of credit goes to social media. We've spent some money on some boosts and some advertising, but at the end of the day, we're trying to engage with our community, and we do that via videos, down-to-earth videos, just telling them what we're about, what we're doing, charity events we have going on. We try and do it as professional as possible, but at the end of the day, it's still on our phone, and it's still very easily accessible if you know those rules and guidelines. The truth of the matter is everyone's on their phone. That's where they're finding their content. It's easy for them to get on the phone, just like it's as easy for me to get on the phone and create that content.
All right, well that's it. That was all filmed this morning around 9 or 10 this morning. Threw it in the editor and had it edited and was able to pick my son up around noon from school. So you can move really quickly by using a phone. As a matter of fact, we do like vlogs and videos just kind of documenting what we do. And a lot of it is shot with our phones, even though we use, like I said, the big fancy cameras. It's just easy, and the quality is incredible. So I'm going to open it up to questions now. If anyone has any questions, make me feel special. All right, what's up?
We were just talking in the other room about Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of the organizations that are here are like nonprofits and things of that nature. And so there's a particular organization in the other room, but they said their board of directors would really like for them to Facebook Live when they have student presentations. And so if you're like, here I am in the back of the room and I'm taping you, that's one thing, but when you're doing student presentations and you've got somebody in the back here who's shuffling papers and somebody's coughing.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way to make Facebook Live actually better?
Absolutely.
To work, especially when it comes to sound.
Yes. Write this down. It's called OBS. It's called Open Broadcast Software.
Okay.
It's free. It's pretty easy to use. You might have to practice with it a little bit. But it's a way to stream Facebook Live, but you're going to use a computer. So if you're really serious about Facebook Live, you have someone set up in the back of the room with their computer. You can, if you use a DSLR, you can plug a DSLR up and actually film from the DSLR. Not only that, you can have external audio sources in OBS. So if you have like any sort of an interface or just a little microphone that can plug into your computer and then get up to the front of the room, it's going to use that audio as opposed to the other audio. And you can honestly, you could plug your phone in and use QuickTime Player. Now, I don't know about Windows. I'm sorry, I know about Apple. But you can use QuickTime Player and you can stream the video into your computer. That way, if you only have an iPhone, and you can stream that through OBS. The other great thing about OBS is it gives you multiple windows. So if I were doing this live today and I wanted people to see the videos as opposed to just like a streaming camera. You can switch windows. It's really easy to do. It's just a little eyeball icon. Turn it on, that window's active. Turn it off, that window's off. And so people could stream live the content, whether it's a photo or video or whatever, in that window, and then just turn that window off when you're ready to go. So if you're super serious about Facebook Live, I mean, there are other programs out there. My job today is to talk about free or cheap. OBS is free, and it's a fantastic tool. I've used it several times. BF Goodrich is a client of mine. They contacted me about doing a live stream, and if I do it, I'm going to talk to them about what platform they want to use. I don't think they want to use Facebook, so that's the thing. But if we do it, we're going to use OBS, and we're going to stream with DSLRs so that we can have like one DSLR over here and one over here, one in the back. So OBS is awesome. Good question. I like stuff like that.
Do you have any recommended sources for audio?
Like music?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you may or may not know this. YouTube has an archive. I think it's called YouTube Music Archives. It's all free. If you want to spend a little bit of money, what I suggest is a website called Artlist, ARTLIST.io. It's $200, but that's for an entire year. That is unlimited downloads and unlimited, like, you can use it whenever and wherever you want. So, you know, a lot of times when you license music, I mean, there's great websites out there that you can license a song for $40 or $50, but it's a one use. You can only use it for internal events. Artlist is as many downloads, any type that you want. And I feel like a $199 investment for an entire year for as much music as you want is fantastic. As a matter of fact, the music that you heard on Frutta Bowls earlier was from Artlist. Like, everything I do is from Artlist. Like, literally, I use it for everything. So that's a really good website to use. And you can modify the music too. Like, you don't have to stay. It's you own the song. So if you need to chop it up, shorten it, add to it, take it away, whatever, because other licenses are really restrictive sometimes.
What about stock video?
Stock video, I think it's called iStock. That's kind of the go-to place. We typically don't use stock video just because that's what we do. Like, we would go out and shoot it. But iStock is probably what I'd recommend, because they're gonna have the best quality, and you can search things by keywords. And I mean, yeah, they're a little on the expensive side, but I mean, I think that's probably gonna be the best one for you. Anyone else? Yes, no, maybe?
I'm probably dumb in my limited knowledge of all this, but that cinematic kind of matte look to the videos, how do you do that really easily?
Okay, so that's called color grading. All of that was straight out of the iPhone, and if I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but if that had a cinematic look or feel, it's probably because of the light and the exposure that we did. We made sure that we were properly exposed. That light is the most important, like light and audio are the two most important things above any camera, above anything, like light and audio. That's the most important. And then your story.
It's really easy for, if you're doing something off your phone, for it to come off just looking like raw video.
Yeah.
So I guess if there's a solution to that, it's just the lighting.
That's the biggest thing is your light going into the camera. But on top of that, if you do want to dabble in color grading, iMovie has color grading tools. If you want that sort of film look, what you do is you lift the blacks, which means lift the shadows a little, bring the shadows up, bring your highlights down a little. It gives a little more flat, like it's called log. We could get really complicated, but lift your blacks, bring your highlights down a little. It's going to give a little bit flatter image. You're definitely going to see more detail that way as well. Your blacks won't be too dark, and you can't see anything. So that's a great way to do it. It's called color grading, like I said. So, anything else?
So I hate to be stupid.
It's fine.
I do it well.
So with the audio, you've got two devices operating at that point, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that that was not like a Bluetooth microphone or something
Nope.
that you had happening. That's two separate phones working in two
That
separate
was. Now, I will tell you, because I don't have it, I didn't use it. On the older iPhones, we had something called a headphone jack. And there is a microphone called a Rode Smart Lav.
I have it in my bag.
You have one?
Yeah.
Can you come get it for me? I'll just stand right here so I won't get out of the shot. Or we'll use the wide angle shot. So if you have an Android device or an older iPhone, or if you buy the little adapter, again, I don't have it, you can actually do what?
Did it come with your phone?
Not for.
I'd like the little lightning to.
Nuh-uh. If it.
Yours should have come with it.
Well, it
You got gypped.
probably didn't.
It's on the flip side.
All right, so this is another tool that we use. It's called an iPod Touch. You've probably heard of it before. iPod Touches are fantastic because you can get this microphone, and then again, it is secondary, but it's called a Rode Smart Lav. RODE is the brand. You can plug it in, and you can get crystal clear lav audio. And you can actually do it into your phone as well if you have a headphone jack or if you have the adapter. I don't know, maybe I got gypped because I didn't see any adapter in my box. But yeah, this is the brand Rode, fantastic company. I think the microphone's what, like $75? Yeah, something like that, and then it comes with an app. But that'll give you even better audio than what you heard there because I was just using the memo and the microphone was like right there. So yeah, you can spend a little bit. I mean, it takes money. You know, the more money you spend, the better you're gonna get. So if you do have a budget for something like that, but you're still creating on phones, then this is the microphone I'd suggest because it works. And if you buy any other one, it probably won't work. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Like these actually work. So, anything else? No? Well, I guess I'm done. I appreciate all the questions and feedback. Let me know if you learned anything or if this was a complete waste of time. You won't hurt my feelings, but I think I was the last speaker today, so you all get to go home now.
You were right about B-roll.
Do what?
You were right about B-roll.
Oh, I was right above B-roll. Yes! Awesome. I totally maybe I did read that somewhere and I didn't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the chat's over. How'd I do? Good. It was horrible. Don't listen to them.
When I